everybody. Welcome to the Queen Comedy Podcast. It's James, and today, of course, as always, I have an amazing comedian for you guys. Like, I know that I say that every time, but what you don't understand is there's so many amazing comedians out there in the world that you don't know about, that I only find out about just like by doing a random bowling alley on like a Tuesday in Simi Valley, right? And then I see this person, I go, I've seen you, and the funny part is I had seen her before and not realize that I'd seen her before, and then we had a conversation. And it came to, all right, now we're going to be on the podcast. Because one, we're both from Texas. She's from Houston. I grew up in Temple. So we're both from there. She started stand-up back in the day. I'm not going to do any words or I'm not going to, make her feel bad about age or anything. I don't do that. But she started in Houston. She became a new face of the Improv in LA. She was a regular at Igby's. She was a touring feature act. She did Punchlines, FunnyBones, all the Laff Stops. I don't know if any of the Laff Stops exist anymore. I thought they did, but are they all gone? They're all gone. And then she was killing it. And then she decided it's a break time. And she took a 14-year break, you guys, to focus on business development and become a corporate person. Kind of like when you've been doing stand-up a long time, you're like, maybe I should get a real job because it's hard sometimes. And so she went back there. But just like the Mafia, she came back to comedy. And here she is. Please welcome the very funny, the very talented Brenda Pontiff. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny because I had seen you around and not even realized it, and then we did that show in Simi at the bowling alley, and you were there, and I was like, I know you, and then like we just had a great conversation, connected. I was like, this is amazing, and then you told me that like you were taking a break and they were coming back to stand up, and I was like, whoa, that's a huge jump, right? Because you started. Yeah. Back in the day, we're not going to do dates. We're not doing that. But
you're protecting my age. You're protecting my feminine love.
we are in LA. So if you're over like 25, you're already like might as well be thrown out, right?
Yeah. But like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, same. If you and I were Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriends, we'd have been kicked to the curb a long time ago. That's what it's like. So just kind of give everybody I gave them kind of a breakdown, but like, let's hear about your comedy journey, the first time starting and then restarting, because those are two things that you don't hear a lot about. So.
Sure. Yeah. My background is acting. I mean, I was since the age of 4, my parents put me in dance school, and I wasn't the greatest ballerina, but I always got the lead because I was an actor, So started acting, started playing around with individual stand-up in a way in high school at UIL speech tournaments, and really loved it, but didn't know you could be a comic. I mean, there was Joan Rivers on TV, but that was about it, so I didn't really know how does a person become a stand-up comic. So I got into theater. I was in a touring improv group during graduate school, and we toured comedy clubs in the Midwest, and I was watching the stand-ups going, that's kind of what I really want to be doing. Then when I moved back to the Texas area, moved to Houston and started writing shows for the Houston Comedy Workshop. And that was a room that was split into a big cabaret room and a small annex room for stand-ups. So I was a writer, director, actor in their sketch shows, hanging out in the green room, made friends with Janine Garofalo, who talked me into doing stand-up one night. Wow. And I was so scared because I had, even though I was an improver and an actor, it was really scary to do stand-up. That first night was magic. And then it took me a year to get another good set. But they always say, if that first night is magic, that's a good sign. And I was blessed. The Comedy Workshop had the Annex. I could go up 6 nights a week. I had all the best comics in the world looking at me, critiquing me, telling me what works, what doesn't. That's the Comedy Workshop is the birthplace of Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison. They were gone by the time I started, but they came back all the time. I got to meet them and know them and watch them. Wow. The Houston scene, there's just a few scenes in the world. I would say probably the New York improv people and some of the Boston people, Holy City Zoo in San Francisco, had these cities that really nurtured comics, where you had stage time. You also had a gatekeeper that said to some people, go home, which made it easier because then you weren't competing with the masses that were wasting time. So that was nice. And we had 6 or 7 clubs in the big heyday, and I could work at all those clubs. And I auditioned for the Improv before I moved out. I was scared to move out, so auditioned at the Improv, made new face, moved out here, and was trying to make it as a comic for quite a few years. Did a little bit of sitcom work. Was doing okay in the clubs. I was regular at Igby's, but just wasn't making very much money, and that scared me. The idea of not having a house, always driving a crappy car.
Yep.
So I turned my efforts over to business development, sales for the big four accounting firms, and then we started traveling all over the world for that and got really busy. Was writing on the side. I was doing some joke polish for some screenwriters. Wrote a screenplay that got optioned. Did a little bit of that, but couldn't go up at night because when you go up at night, you're up late at night. I had client meetings. I had to take clients to breakfast at 8 o'clock. I couldn't be at the Improv at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it, you know? So left, and then got to a point where I started my own company. I could make my own hours, and then kind of semi-retired from that. And I'm like, why don't I just do what I really meant to do all along, which was stand-up comedy? Yeah. Yeah. So came back to it, and it's different. Of course, the scene has completely changed.
Yep.
And it worries me. The scene worries me. I worry about young comics. The kind of my mother instincts. I get nurturing with these young comics that have to pay to go up and they can't afford it, and some of them are really good. And I'm like, I never had to pay to go up. That's terrible. I'm like, you know what? I'll buy your hamburger and fries so you can go do a set. It's like I worry about them. Yeah.
It is the one thing that I dislike about, especially the LA comedy scene, is you have to pay, buy a drink or buy this or pay for whatever to go up. It's like, that's not fair. Or if you are going up, some of these clubs aren't paying comics to go up in due time, and they're not getting, so they're spending, it's costing more money to be a stand-up comedian than what they're making at it. And I realized real quick that if a comedian wants to make money in stand-up early on, they should produce their own shows. Then they can make money that way. And I always say, if you produce a show and you have comedians on, you pay those comedians as well, because that's how we move this forward. Because at some point, comedians are going to go, no more club that doesn't pay. We're not going there anymore. And they're not going to have high quality comedians, and it's not going to work out for them. And that club will go away.
Absolutely. It burns itself out when you don't do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I don't want to brag, but I made $75 last week doing comedy.
There you go. There you go. And all you had to do was drive all the way to the other side of California.
Right. I
always tell people that. I'm always like, do you know where I make the most money? It's not in LA. It's driving outside of LA. It's for $250, $500, whatever it is, to do one more time, to be sometimes one or two, maybe one of three comedians on a show.
Yeah.
And get fed well. I get a steak dinner usually. I get $200 to $500.
Yeah.
And I get, half an hour, 45 minutes sometimes, whatever, to do material. And I'm like, they're excited to see me. They're not like, oh, we were only really waiting for the headliner guy. No.
Oh yeah. Well, the cavalcade of 20 comics, I'm not doing that anymore, Yeah. And I will take a pay cut to get more time, because I want more time. It's hard. That was what was killing me when I moved out here, because I'd finally gotten to where I worked up to a 30, 45-minute set as a feature, and then moved out here and was just doing 5, 7, sometimes 10. And then, my skill set, I was losing my skills because I couldn't play around. I didn't feel comfortable. Everything had to be a tight set. At the Improv, oh, Bud's here tonight. I got to, couldn't work on new material. So yeah, I'll take a pay cut to drive somewhere where they'll let me do 30 minutes. Absolutely.
100%. That's the one thing I love about like corporate and private gigs, is like, they're like, you can do whatever you want. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do tried and true material up front to know that I like get them on my side. I'll play with stuff in the middle. I'll do some crowd work, and then I'll close with tried and true material that I know will work, and we'll go there. And then I can do the full gambit of stuff, and they're going to pay me good money, and they're going to feed me. I'm like, let's do this. I don't care if I have to drive, an hour and a half, 2 hours to Bakersfield or, Santa Barbara or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. We're
I
good.
just did a gig in Santa Barbara and I love it. It's so
It's so
gorgeous.
good.
And I'm like, you know what? I don't mind driving out this. And I live on the West Valley, so I saw you at Rock and Roll Pizza. That's
Yep.
where I saw you. And let me just say, it sounds like a dive bar, but you know that next week Foo Fighters was playing there.
Yep. That's right.
That's a pretty cool venue, you know?
It's a great venue. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I know people go, it's a little bar in the back of a bowling alley, and you're like, yeah, but dude, good
It's
bands
great.
come there. Yeah, and it's a great
Yeah,
venue. They have a
it's a
great
great venue.
setup for audio and everything. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it.
So you went to Santa Barbara. Did you go up there? Was it for the Santa Barbara Laugh Fest? Is that what you went up there
No, I
for?
did the Good Show at
Oh,
Blizzard Brewery, which was a packed house. It was fantastic.
yeah,
Packed. Yeah, I mean, and that's, I, like you were saying, the three comic model of the old days. I think they had four comics that night, but I miss that old model of the opening, the feature, and the headliner, and people would pay to
yeah,
come in, no free tickets, and buy beer and French fries and onion rings or whatever, and watch a good quality show that you knew was going to be good.
yeah,
And that's just not the model anymore. These club owners will tell you, I mean, and I look, I appreciate club owners. They took the financial risk, and it's a
right,
risk. Every day is a liability. Somebody could walk in and break their neck. I mean, I respect them very much as business owners. But they have to kind of reconfigure this model, and I'm like, yeah, but the model kind of eats itself after a while
hmm,
because you're not really retaining customers. You're constantly putting up new comics that will bring their friends, diluting your show. You got your headliners, that's fine, but you still dilute the show, and after a while, that's exhausting for
yeah,
them.
yeah, 100%, 100%. That's what I always think when I see those ones. And the thing is, I think what happened, especially in LA, is you had the Comedy Store who had these murdering lineups from 8 o'clock to 2 in the morning, and
Mhm.
other comedy clubs said, "Oh, well, we'll just compress that into 2 hours or 90 minutes or whatever it is, and we'll do the same thing." But we're just like whoever wants to go up plus one big headliner to get everybody to come in, and you're right, it just dilutes everything. Where you go, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want to see 10 open mic comedians and have to wait an hour and a half to go see my final person or whatever,
right. Yeah,
So it's like,
it's
yeah,
exhausting. Yeah. Yeah, it's who wants to sit, I don't even want to do it. I mean, that's that's
yeah,
the thing, so, and sometimes this sounds snobby, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? I've been in this business long enough where I didn't deserve that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't deserve to have to watch that.
Yeah, but sometimes you get the diamond in the rough. Sometimes you're watching a
Oh
show that
yeah.
you're not expecting to see anything good. You go, okay, it's like 8 people who are open micers. Maybe this is their first or a couple few times on stage, and then one person just shines out of that, and you go, okay, all right,
Yeah.
well, this was
And
great.
that's exciting. And you know
Yeah,
what? I have actually made a connection with, like in the back green rooms where I'm sitting with all these young comics, the ones that will ask me about the old days and ask me questions. I I can predict they're going to be the ones that are really good. They
well,
have an
yeah,
interest of the history and they want to know more, where the other ones are like scrolling on their phone or and I'm
yeah.
like, I've seen a connection, a direct connection between those people. I'm like, I'm going to go watch that person because I bet they're the ones that are good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't go know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, right? If you don't know
Right.
where stand up started, who was before you, what type of comedy was happening before that,
Hmm.
you can't just go, oh, crowd work clips are working on Instagram and TikTok, so that's what I'm going to do. It's like, no,
Hmm.
you need to build an act because Kennison before you and Carlin before you and Pryor before you and all these
Yep.
people before you did this other thing that worked for decades and still works, right? If you go watch Netflix, Matt Rife's new special isn't Matt Rife just doing TikTok crowd work clips. It's not. It's a full stand up set.
Right.
So if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to progress. You're going to get stuck in this loop of like thinking I can only do. There's only one comedian that I know of that can consistently do crowd work and always kill at it. And I don't know if you know David Rosenberg, but he's
Oh, I
out
was going to
here.
say Jimmy Brogan was
Which
my choice.
Jimmy Brogan's great. Yeah, I wish he would do a special or something. He doesn't have even a special or an album or anything, as far as I know. But of new comedians, of newer, like younger comedians, the
Hmm.
only person I've consistently seen kill with crowd work is David Rosenberg. And he is amazing at crowd work. I've never seen anyone do it Why what he does. He doesn't do jokes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he has bits and premises that he comes up with, but a lot of it's crowd work. That's the only one.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But and yeah, Jimmy Brogan. But Jimmy Brogan's been around for forever, so he built that. I mean, that
Right.
kind of is what he's known for, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
So now that you're back in comedy,
Mm-hmm.
what have you changed anything about how you do comedy, or have you revisited something that you used to do that now you brought that back? Like, what kind of has been your process? Because that's a big jump from not doing it for 14 years to coming back and landing in a new world of comedy where you have to have social media and you have to do this thing and like all this.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, the social media thing is really. I mean, I have very few Instagram followers. In fact, if you're watching this, please follow me on Instagram at Brenda Pontiff. I'm learning how to say that. And at the end of my act, I always forget, and people go, "Brenda, you've
Me
got to
too.
tell them to follow." And I'm like, "Well, if they want to follow me, they'll follow me." But it's like, yeah, I really hate that because it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And like I've had the younger comics now, I finally learned how to do the QR code where you can, I mean, I don't, I'm old. I don't do these things, and like the whole idea of merch, I'm like, I don't do that either. But all of that has been interesting, but I still believe that well-written jokes and a good delivery are still, and my goal now as a comic, back then my goal was to make a living, maybe have a sitcom. I mean, I was an actor, but I didn't really want a sitcom. I would have rather write for a sitcom than act. But yeah, but my goal now is, and I'm at a different place in my life where I'm secure. I'm not scared. I'm not sweating the weekly bills or whatever. I simply want to be the very best comic that I can be. I want to reach my potential because I got to a level where some really comics that I really respect and love really liked me and said that I was good. And then it was shortly thereafter I kind of had to give it up, and I'm like, but the people are saying something about me, and now I just want to go back to that and try to reach the best that I can be. It doesn't matter if I get a Netflix special, doesn't matter. None of that matters. I want to be good. I want to be good. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And I'm at a position where I can say that. When you're younger, it probably is harder. Yeah, you want to be good and you want to get noticed, you want to get this manager and you want to go to Just for Laughs festival and all that. And it's crazy. All of that's crazy. And I got to say, it was hard for women in the 90s, and it's hard now because when women are on stage, we don't know who's watching our purse, is what I usually say. But but it's more than that. It's as a woman, I found that in the 90s you had to have a gimmick.
Yeah.
I have a normal voice. I'm not quirky. People would say, "Well, you're not the ingenue, but you're not the weird sidekick either." When you're kind of in the middle there, and I still see a lot of women that have some kind of a gimmick, maybe jumping over the ones who are more solid because Hollywood sees women that way. But I do see more normal women in the business with a normal voice who are also doing cleaner comedy. And I say I'm a clean comic, but I'm edgy. So some people confuse those two things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, and I really hate some of the stuff I see out there I'm like, you're just trying to get a laugh off of shock value and it's not working. And please stop it. You're way too old to be talking about that now. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the challenge of being a female comic. And then the additional challenge of being a female comic is the constant mansplaining from the male comics who really like to control. And I learned in the 90s, you can go to coffee with someone for 15 times, and if they're going to really help you, they say they're going to help you, they're not. Don't stop going to coffee with these people and stop hanging out with these people who say, "Oh, I'm going to call so and so about you," or "I'm going to." They're not. They're trying to get something else that you're not interested in. Just leave those people behind. They are total time wasters, and there's so many of them.
I'm
glad old, I'm still navigating that.
glad I turned down all those coffee dates. That I'm glad. They only wanted one thing, you guys. And now, I always laugh because it is, there's still these like, and it's for you probably still right now. It's probably younger guys who are gatekeeping and like, I can help you out if you just whatever. And you're like, no, dude, no, you can't. You can't help yourself out. Like you can't help me out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's such a funny thing. And ladies, just so you know, if I'm at a comedy show and you need someone to watch your purse, I'll do it. I have a wife and 2 daughters. I'm used to that. It's okay. We're good. No one's going to take your purse. We're all right.
I see some women taking their purse on stage, and I'm like, I don't like that. Don't take your
Yeah.
purse on stage. Just don't, you know. But it is a problem, you know. It really is.
I didn't know it was a problem. Now I'm glad that
Yeah.
you've alerted me to it.
Yeah.
Now that I can be more aware. Like,
It's an issue because you worry about it. You're up on stage, and you know, I always say the male comics can get up here and run around and do sound effects. I can't. I'm worried. Like, you know, I can't concentrate knowing someone's stealing my iPhone. You know. But yeah, no, it's so funny because I had a guy the other day say something, "Oh, you know, you can use my name when you're talking to this guy if you want to get a booking." And I'm like, the guy you want me to talk to is an open micer who produces an open mic show. And sure, I'll use your name, but I don't want to. I'm not going to be on that open mic. I'm not doing open mics, you know. I mean, it's so funny how they're like, "Oh, you could use my name." I'm like,
yeah.
that doesn't mean anything, you know? Yeah.
So, what is the biggest change that you've seen in stand up coming back now from back in the day? Because there was a lot. I don't want to say a lot straighter of a road, but you kind of know, like, you do these steps and you can go on the road, you could be a feature, whatever like that. Now
Right.
it doesn't. It's kind of, there's a million roads to get to the same place. What changes have you seen, or what differences have you seen?
Yeah, it's more random now, I think, because people will go viral with something on TikTok or Instagram and then they have a career.
Yep.
However, sometimes these people can't sustain that career. There's such a dilution. Like, it used to be a big deal, of course, to be on Carson. You know, that was a career making thing. And now there's so many late night shows. I have friends that have done a few of those shows, and you know, one of them's a barista at Starbucks. I mean, you know, it does not guarantee anything at this point. So you have to kind of decide where you want to make your money, how you want to make your money. If you're a good joke writer, I say get into writing so that you have another backup career. You know, yeah, I mean, that just makes sense. If you're more of a delivery person and your jokes are, then maybe you should focus on acting. You know, and not everybody has to be a stand-up. I hate to break the news to the world, but not. It used to be people who were so afraid of public speaking. You know, number one fear.
Yep.
And I'm like, I wish we could get back to that. I wish we could get back to the number one fear of public speaking, because there's so many people trying to get on stage. And you know, people say, "Oh, the cream rises to the top." No, the cream can get stuck because there's so much. People get tired. I even found that in the 90s that, like, a manager, like, I'd say, "Well, I'm up at the Improv at midnight." Well, I'm not going at midnight, you know. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I say develop a distinctive voice, and you know, get as much stage time as you can without spending too much money. Don't drive all over the world to do free stuff and blow your gas bill and get into a wreck at 2 in the morning. I worry about people that way too. A lot of people driving all over the place, and like I will turn down some of the Santa Clarita stuff on when it's windy, because I'll be like, I'm not driving the Magic Mountain truck pass when the wind is gusting at 150. I'm not. It's not worth it, you know.
I did it
So,
3 times this week, 3 times last week for that.
That's treacherous. I mean, those trucks can like fall over on you.
Yep.
That's scary. That's scary stuff. So, but I wish there were more gatekeepers. I wish that the comedy club owners could feel empowered to be gatekeepers and tell people, so, because some people are really good at bringing people.
Right.
I've seen people kind of go up the ranks, and I saw somebody the other day that got into a co-headlining situation, and this person is not ready for that. And it was simply because that person packs the house, with very good at the email list, and very, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but now the whole brand of that club has been lowered because you're really not a headliner, and now they're putting you up in that position, so the whole brand starts to, you know,
it goes from an A club or a B club to a C club and a D club.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't know what the answer is. It's kind of like the Middle East. There may be no solution,
Right.
you know, but I wish that club owners felt empowered to, because it's a whole different scene now, and it's exhausting. And I don't want to stay out late anymore. I'm older, you know. So I'm like, if you're not going to put me up on a Friday or Saturday night in a good spot, thanks, but I'm not going to do it. I don't really need it, you know.
That's good.
So,
That's
yeah.
exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to be up all night either. It's funny because some nights I'll go hang out with friends and we'll go to like we'll be at a bunch of different clubs and we'll end up like at the Comedy Store till 2 in the morning or whatever. But
Mhm.
that's like a one in a million. I don't do that very. I couldn't. I would die the next day, honestly. But
Yeah.
there's times where it's like, hey, I'll put you up on a spot at 11 o'clock. You're like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want an 11 o'clock spot. You can give me an 8 o'clock spot, 9 o'clock spot.
Right.
Maybe I'll even take 10. But 11 o'clock is like now I got to do the spot. Then I got to hang out for a little while. Then I got to drive home, and I won't get home till midnight or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah,
do that.
and your next day is for
It's
me is
ruined.
kind of ruined. Yeah,
Yep.
if I'm up that late, because I'm going to watch a little TV, I can't go home. I cannot go home and go straight to bed, especially if
Yep.
I'm doing comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm also coming it back into some issues that I found in the '90s. Comedy is hard on the diet. I mean, the pandemic had me putting on weight and then doing so much comedy because when I get home, and especially if I've had a great set, I want cheese and crackers. I don't know what that is, but that's so bad. I
Yep.
don't know. I don't know why that is, but you really have to. It's such a high that you have to come down from, and that can really mess up your schedule and your day. Well, that's why I think in the '90s I wound up quitting. It was just too much. It was just overwhelming. But yeah, there's a, seeing the young comics, I'm like, take care of yourself physically, take care of yourself mentally, you
Yeah.
know, keep your close ties to your family who love you and support you no matter what happens.
Yep.
If you're
Yeah.
lucky to have a good family,
Yeah,
you know.
because there's a lot of people that come and go in the comedy thing. Like, oh, you think they're your friends, and then they walk away, or they just oh, you did a show that they wanted to do, and now they're angry at you, or you got something they wanted, or they didn't get something and you did, or whatever it is, and then they're not really your friends. They were just
Oh yeah,
whatever.
and that's all very sad. And you see that in business too. I mean, yeah, people
Yeah,
talk about Hollywood and how, I go, yeah, but I see icky people everywhere in
everywhere.
every industry. They work and sometimes they do quite well because they're cutthroat. I was talking to a friend the other day who was very funny. She's incredibly talented, and some people know her, some people don't. I know her because she's just brilliant. But she was saying how she goes, you and I just aren't. She told a story about someone we know who's very famous who did something very treacherous, and I said, that wouldn't even enter my mind to try to sabotage someone's career like that. That wouldn't even, and you see that too. People that watch TV and see these people who are very successful go, "Oh, how wonderful! They seem so nice." I'm like, maybe not.
Yep.
But that's the choice they made, and if they can sleep at night, I guess okay for them. But I couldn't. I couldn't do it. To me, it's way more important to be a good person, and that's. I was helping someone book something a while back, and I reached out to someone who I know who's famous and who I've known for years. In fact, I helped this person out at one point, and this person didn't respond. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, you're so big now that you can't even answer an email. Yuck. It just,
Yeah.
I thought, you're so broken because at least you could say, oh, thanks, Brenda, how are you? Or whatever. I'm like, you're so far gone in your own head. And they might have something horrible going on. Who knows? But I'm like, you just be, etiquette, be courteous, be
Yep.
courteous always. Yeah, it was sad. I was like, and I mentioned it to somebody. They go, "Yeah, that same person did that to them too." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Yeah, yeah, it's just, yeah." But I've seen
So
that's another thing I've seen. I've seen some of my friends got really famous and really wealthy, and then some of my friends who are just as talented did not did not get out of the business, stayed in the business, and now they're older and they're really scared and struggling because they
yeah.
didn't set up a financial safety net for themselves. And it's not fair because they were talented too. But that's why I say take care of yourself. And if it's not going the way you want it to, go make some money, come back to it. You know,
Yeah.
come
Rodney
back to it.
Dangerfield did it, right?
Yeah,
He did.
he
He
sure
left for a
did.
while, came back, and then he came back and slayed. So it's fine.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about the eating thing. I don't know. I wonder if this is just me. So that's what I'm asking. Do you eat? Do you like if I have a show the day? I might have a snack or something, but I don't usually eat anything until after the show.
Right.
Is that something you do too?
Yeah, I do eat a snack. I eat some protein before I
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
But yeah, because I don't like feeling, and I also cannot drink before a show. The other day I had one beer. I was working on a new joke. I had one beer and I could not get this joke out of me. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's crazy. But I hardly ever. But I got there so early, there was nothing else to do. That's another thing when you're driving from the West Valley. So I said, oh, I'll have a beer, and then I'm like, I should not have had that beer. And I don't even drink a lot after the show because I have to drive or whatever.
Right.
So and drinking too, like even one drink I'll get a headache. I'm just not. I miss it, but I can't do much of that either. But it's really easy to gain weight as a
Yeah.
comic. And,
Yeah.
and and back in the old days in Houston, we would go to a place called Beer Paredes after the shows and have pizza and beer at 2 in the morning, and you just see yourself explode.
Yep. Exactly right. I know. I remember going on the road with Darren Carter. We go eat at like 1 o'clock in the morning after the show. We're eating like fried nachos
Oh
and
yeah,
all this stuff. And I'm like, why are we doing this? And he's like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, I know I'm hungry, but like also at the same time, we probably shouldn't do this. Like, just let's not eat and go to bed, or whatever, or something,
right.
or do something else. And no, but
It's almost impossible. But Darren still stayed pretty.
dude,
He's
Darren,
actually,
because he
yeah,
runs every day, he boxes. You're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
and you can see his body. He's a high energy guy.
Yeah.
I had a friend who's doing cruise ships, and he said that he goes and gets a salad from one of the things and puts it in his room, and then he goes, and then when all the comics want to go get pizza, he goes, I go get my salad, and he goes, yeah, it's not as much fun. He goes, but I look better than them.
Yeah. See, I would love doing cruise ships because it'd probably be exactly like it was when I was in the Navy, where literally my day was getting up, working out, going and doing whatever I had to do, working out, going and doing whatever I had to do,
Yeah,
working out, then going to sleep. So I would do
yeah,
get up, work out, go do something, work out again, go do something, go do my set, work out before I went to bed, and then go to bed, take a shower and go to bed so I'm not covered in
right,
sweat. I wasn't going to bed covered in sweat, people, okay?
right.
But you were like, gross, James. Like, but yeah, but there you go. Yeah, I worked out 3 times because then you're killing. If you're on a cruise ship or you're out and about, sometimes you don't have anything to do. And I'm not. I don't think I would ever be one of those comedians who walked around the mall during the day. I'm talking about the ones
That's
on the road.
depressing. I've done
That,
that as a comic. Yeah, it was depressing.
it's
Yeah.
so. I did it like twice, and I was like, this is terrible. I don't like this. I'd rather go work out or like go hit the treadmill or do something like. No, I'm
Yes.
not gonna. Or
Make
read a
good use.
book for goodness sake.
Yeah, reading is nice. Yeah, make good use of your time. Yeah, before I ever did the road, I had a boyfriend in Houston who was a touring comic, and he would get so depressed, and I'm like, you have the easiest job in the world. You're good, and you're headline everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And then when I started going out, I would call him and I go, oh, this is awful. He goes, see, that's why I was depressed. I go, this is, and if you don't like the other comics you're with, if you like them, it helps. But if
Right.
you don't like them and you're stuck with them for a whole week and you're living in a condo with them, you just want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not.
So I think we kind of went over this a little bit, things that you've changed, things or whatever. Is there any new lessons that you've learned coming back to comedy after a time off? Is there something that maybe you didn't realize back in the early days when you started, but now it's really been like, this is the thing I need to do, or this is the thing that is important to me now to focus on. Do you have any of those kind of things?
Yes, and I think well maybe when I was younger this wasn't so as important because my brain clicked faster, but now I'm like I must prep for a show. I
Hmm.
cannot just wing it and go up there and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this bit and I'm going to go into this bit because I'll drop a tag or I'll forget a callback or whatever. And I try to make time where on a longer show where I can play with the audience, I can do all that, but I need to know where I'm going. I need to map it out, and if I'm writing new material, I got to decide where that material is because the comedy sandwich, like you say, you start with
Hmm.
something tried and true, you end with tried and true, and in the middle, But I have to write it down and map it out and think about it.
Yeah.
And I can't, because sometimes I was like, oh, I'm just going to wing it, and I go, you can't do that, and you can't have a beer. No winging it, no beers. So it's
No wings, no
work.
beers.
It's work. Yeah, it's work. It's a job. And the audience, another thing that I do that a lot of comics don't, on weekend shows, I dress up a little bit. I usually wear something kind of sparkly or whatever. And I see a lot of t-shirts and tennis shoes, and I'm like, if the audience could come out, and if it's like a date night and they took the trouble to get dressed and come out here, I want to look presentable. Then this is very old school, but I want to give them a little showbiz for their
Yeah.
money. And that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, there've been times when I wear a t-shirt or whatever, but I try on the weekend shows to wear my jacket and sparkly and the earrings and the, just makes me feel better. And I feel like I'm giving you something that nobody else is giving you. And
Yeah.
people will say, God, you were the best dressed up. I go, well, at least I got that, huh? But
Well,
it makes a difference.
I was always told like dress one level above the audience, right? So like if they're like now that might be different if you're going to do a private gig and they're all wearing tuxedos, you better wear a tuxedo. You better not show
Right,
up in jeans and a t-shirt or whatever and just
right.
a blazer or something. But if you normal at least a normal LA audience, if you put on a blazer or you put on a jacket or you dress a little nicer, then you're already elevated above them because yeah, they're wearing what there might be one or two nice dressed people in the audience, but for the
Right.
most part, t-shirts and jeans is what you have. I like to wear black t-shirt, jeans, but I have either a leather jacket that I wear or a
Mhm.
like a really nice fabric jacket, and then I have really nice like shoes that I wear that are like they're kind of like basketball shoes, but they're really like fancy looking. And
Yes.
I only wear those ever on stage. I never wear them out in public. They don't go anywhere. So that is my putting on the Batman wardrobe or whatever, like leveling up, becoming a different person on stage than you are out there. So
Right, right. No, it makes it because when I was younger, I would wear like a kind of bohemian style. I had hair down to my waist, and I would wear granny boots, and that was my thing. That was my
yeah,
image then. Kind of a Lisa Kudrow comparison a lot
I
back in
like
that
that.
day. And so I'm like, it's okay to have a little bit of a, I wouldn't call it a gimmick or something that you're resting on completely, but it's
Right.
something that you feel like sets you apart, makes you feel, and it's showbiz.
Yeah.
It's showbiz. That's why when everybody gets up, they're all dressed the same. I'm like, I don't know. And the women that keep wearing beanies on stage in the middle of summer, I'm suspicious of that. Like, why are you wearing a beanie? I think they make it look cool and hip, and I'm like, you got to be hot under there.
that's that's what I always think. The guys in the baseball caps too. You're standing there, the
Yeah,
lights are hitting you. I'm like, how are you not sweating, bro? Your whole brow is
yeah,
probably just covered in sweat. Your whole hair. I'm like, no,
yeah. A
thank
lot of
you.
that's covering up baldness, I
Yeah.
think. But
I was always told never to wear a hat on stage, right? That was like a thing that was always told to me is like don't wear a hat on stage. You're blocking your face because you're
well,
doing
you
this
are
thing.
blocking your face. I saw a woman a while back who, I said, I couldn't see your eyes the entire time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It,
It's
it can be. It depends on how they wear it, but yeah, it can be a problem. Yeah.
yeah. You get a lot of the guys who wear like the low, like wear the to the like right here where the brim's like right here, and then you
Right.
can't see their eyes, and it's
Yeah.
very frustrating. You go, God, come on, man! Like that's you're cutting off part of your face that people can see that you could use for an act out. You can use for engagement. You can make eye contact with that person in the front row, or
Yes.
that person behind them, or the person who is talking and being annoying, or now talking on their phone. But if you have the hat on, they don't know you're looking at them. They don't know what's
Yeah, they
happening.
can't see it. They can't tell where you're looking, and that being in the moment is so important. That's not
Yeah.
that, and that often separates the men from the boys from the men from the boys or the women from the whatever. But it when I see a comic, I knew somebody who was very experienced, and they wanted me to come watch a show and give them some notes because they had a TV taping, and it was an interesting night, and something really outrageous happened just before this person went up. And when they got up, they didn't acknowledge it at all. And I said, "You've got to be in the moment." I said, "You've been doing this forever." I said, "You got to come up with something quick and funny to acknowledge the guy that was just in front of you that did this crazy thing. Please, you know, that's at this point I expect that from you."
Yeah, yeah. You have to be aware of what's going on in the room. You're if you're a comedian, you're listening to this, you should be watching who's ahead of you. Watch
Yes.
them and see what's going on in the room before you. You don't have to watch every act before you. I understand that that's not always reasonable, but you should be watching at least the person going right before you, so you know what's happened in the room, what's been going on before. What was said before. Who did they talk to already? If they talk to somebody, whatever it is, because you don't want to go in there and talk exactly to the same person that everyone's been talking to, saying the exact same thing. Oh, where are you from? Oh, you're also like whatever that is. That happens so many times that I see.
Yeah.
I just did a show in Santa Clarita, and this is why I love Willie Mack. Willie Mack's standing in the back. He's going to go on after me. I'm going to intro him. But in the middle of me starting the show, this lady starts talking on her cell phone, and I'm in the middle of a bit. So I stop my bit, and I look right at her, and I go, "Do you want to talk more?" And she's like, "I'm so sorry. My friend called me. They didn't know where they are." I'm like, they don't know where the only Mimi's Cafe is in Santa Clarita. They should not be your friends anymore. Like, and everyone's dying laughing. And when Willie got up, he addressed the lady who was talking on her phone, like,
Yes.
"Hey, I just want to make sure you're not going to talk on your phone again before I start my act." And then that won the room over, right? Because, okay, we've already been through
Yes.
this. And he addressed it. He knows what's going on. And boom, and he won him over. And of course, Willie's amazing. He's going to kill the group anyways.
Totally.
But it was one of those things where I'm like, see, if he was standing outside, because it was a packed house, if he was standing outside not paying attention, he would have never known. He would have not had that moment. It would not, he would have still killed. Don't get me wrong. But it was another thing to endear him to the audience immediately.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's shocking how many of them don't. How many of them don't do that? And then they say something that the audience has already established, and it's kind of like, oh, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
Where's he been?
Yeah.
He's not with us.
Yeah, because and that's the other thing too, is like people forget, comedians forget, this is a conversation with the audience. You speak, they laugh, you speak, they laugh, you speak, they don't laugh, and then you go, okay, now I need to say something different and get them back to laughing and back and forth. When you don't have that conversation or you don't have that connection, an audience is not, they're just going to go look at you and go, okay. Like Sunday night audiences do this the most, by the way. I don't know if anyone, I don't know if you know this, you probably would know exactly what I'm going to say. They're the polite nodders of audiences. They will be a little more reserved. They're not going to laugh as loud because they know they have to work tomorrow. They're not going to drink as much. They're being very careful. They're kind of, and usually they're brought out because one or two people said, hey, come out, let's go see this show. So not everyone's fully invested. They're only there because a friends made them come or whatever. Sunday night audiences are those audiences. So those are the audiences where if you don't connect right away and you can't get that connection going, it's just going to be polite applause, a little bit of head nod, whatever, and that's it. And you're not going to get a great show,
That's true. I was going to say, it's funny because I think Friday night audiences are the best.
They are the best.
Friday night audiences more than I like Saturday night, because Friday night you're getting rid of the week, you're thinking about your boss that you can't stand, and you're ready to have fun on Friday.
Yep. Friday night audiences are the best audiences, and then Saturday night audiences are the second best audiences.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, that's the people who are like, well, we didn't get to go out Friday, we didn't get to go out Saturday. Bill says we have to go out now, so let's go. And then
look, they went to church. They're tired of listening to people.
They
went to church. They're like, oh no, somebody's talking at me again.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, or it's the guy. This is the best one, is when the girl wants to go out with her boyfriend or with whatever, with her friends, and she has to bring the boyfriends or the guys along, but they just wanted to stay home and watch football on Sunday or sports or whatever it was, and so they're not engaging at all. And then it's just like it's like pulling teeth trying to get to go.
Yeah. Even Comix, when you go to a bar that has a game on, they can't even have a conversation. It's like it's like little keys. Oh, look at you. It's like,
yeah. Even if they're not, and I find myself doing this. Even if I'm not interested in that particular game, it just I keep drawing my attention to it. I'm like, dang it, stop doing it. Yeah.
It's some kind of weird ADHD.
Yeah. So, what do you have coming up? Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about your comedy and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Instagram is where I post a lot of shows coming up. I have December the 1st, I'm at the Comedy Chateau with Jimmy Brogan and Jason Stewart.
Okay.
So, and I've got another gig that week. I just can't think of where it is, because I know I have two gigs that week. But yeah, my Instagram usually posts what shows I'm doing. Okay. And I don't put it on my website. I had the GoDaddy people call me the other day, and they go, "You need a calendar. We were looking at your website. We all decided you needed a calendar, and just for an extra $1,000 a year, we can help you build this calendar." I'm like, "Oh, I just going to post it on Instagram." See, I'm not a techie.
They're a good plug. If it's a WordPress site done by them, it's just a good plugin for WordPress. I can help you out with that.
Really? Okay. Okay. Because I thought that sounds awfully fancy.
That's way expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I said. But see, they think they can get me. That I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, so yeah, Friday night, December 1, Comedy Chateau, Jason Stewart and Jimmy Brogan, 2 crowd work masters.
Yeah. I love Jason Stewart. I didn't know what to expect the first time that I was on a show with him. And it was amazing watching him. And I was going, I love this guy. Because he's so much different off stage than he is on stage. He's not the same person. I don't know.
Right.
Like, you guys might not know that, but Brenda and I probably know that. Like, he's so nice and quiet and very whatever. And then on stage, he's this whole different animal. And it's so much fun to watch. You're going, oh my gosh, I love what he's doing up there.
Oh, he's rapid fire.
He's not clean, you guys, just so you know.
Yeah, he's not. He's not. He's rapid fire. And I met him in the 90s at the Laff Stop in Houston when he was still doing straight jokes.
Oh wow! Okay.
I've known him. I've known him a long time. Yeah. But
He does not do straight jokes anymore, as far as I know.
No. But the way he plays with the audience is, and he's got that rhythm. See, and I respect that rhythm and cadence of the old school joke masters that some comics don't do anymore, and that's fine. Some of them get away with it, that's fine. But I love its music, its rhythm and jazz, and people like Jason have that bum 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 bum, and I love it. I love that.
Yeah, that's why people should study comedy. That's why you should go watch old stuff, because you can see the difference, and you can see there's a turning point of comedy where that becomes less of a thing. It starts about 2002, where you start to see that fall off. Seinfeld's kind of one of the last like rhythmic people like that, and then you get to newer people who are not as rhythmic, but they go into a little more storytelling. They go into a little more up and down roller coaster ride, which is not the same as it used to be. And you get that kind of change, and it's fun to watch people doing that, and that's why you should go watch more comedy, guys.
Because there's different styles, different stuff going on. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Well, I'll put all the links for all Brenda stuff in the show notes, so you guys can go find her. I'll put Instagram. Do you want me to put your website too, or just
it's www.brendapontiff.com. Yeah.
There you go. And I'll put all that in the show notes so you guys have it. Thank you so much, Brenda, for being on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please go like, subscribe. Go follow me on YouTube. I haven't checked this morning. I probably should have. At one point, I was at 666 subscribers, and I'm like, I don't want that number on my YouTube. That sounds very bad. So, like, let's get that to at least 667. Somebody, please, And thank you all for listening. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.